Hello and welcome to Discover Energy Work. Well, it's nice to have you back. Today I have Dusya Lyubovskaya. Is that right?
Yes,
I
that's correct.
like you can tell I'm a little scared about saying your name, Dusya. But we met through Facebook, and when I was asking to talk to psychics, and the first thing I got, well, this is a bit chaotic, and you've got stories, and I'm like, chaos is fine, embrace the chaos. I think very much with this, especially when you're getting like psychic breakthrough, it comes through a little bit chaotically. In the middle of things, you suddenly get this unexpected thing that's literally like a breakthrough. But would you like to introduce yourself first? I mean, you're actually in the States, aren't you?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
I'm in Massachusetts, to be specific.
Right.
How
do you introduce yourself normally?
Yeah, sure. So, as you mentioned, my name is Dusya Lyubovskaya, or just L for short. Either works for me. I am in Massachusetts, in the US. I am in medical field, and I'm a holistic life coach. And yeah, I use energy healing, and I use my intuition, and as well as communicating with the other side and all the other things.
So the first thing is, did you say holistic life coach?
Holistic. Yes.
So what is, I mean, it's just a word that's, bandied about everywhere, and almost it's got a bad reputation now. So what do you mean by holistic?
So when I say that I'm a holistic life coach, for me, that means that I incorporate holistic medicine, which aids in healing modalities like energy healing, angel healing, shamanism, all that. Like those are for me what I consider holistic modalities. And I know that majority of people here consider that holistically just means mind, body, and soul, which is true, but that's just like the tip of the iceberg, really. It's all about the ancient modalities.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about medicine, you're not necessarily saying you prescribe any drug or anything like that. You're talking more about like the indigenous people who talk about medicine as being like an energy.
Right. And I also connect my Western medicine knowledge because I'm in the medical field, and people come to me who do take medication, and I definitely do not discourage them from that. I just offer them additional sources like Reiki, energy healing, to help them because some medicines have side effects, and I'm definitely not going to say don't take them. So I just help them so if they can implement or combine the Western medicine with the ancient modalities.
Yeah, I'm absolutely the same. It's like there's a general rule. If you've been given a medicine by a doctor, you have to go to somebody of the same doctor level to take you off it. You shouldn't take yourself off it at all. And
absolutely.
If it's another kind of doctor, whatever it is, you go to that speciality. So what's your medical field background? Are you a nurse or a chiropractor?
I used to be in patient care for, I know I look younger, but I used to be in patient care for 10 plus years. Like I started very young, and I was doing nursing it, like just taking care of the aging population and of disabled people. And I just started like jumping up the ladder, and I'm still doing that.
Right. Okay. So it's sort of this is another string to your bow, as it were. The energy.
Exactly.
And it was so fascinating when I connected with you. You're already connecting with spirit, and I was like, wow, this could be quite chaotic, which is fine. But so what interests me is, when did you realize that there was this connection with energy and spirit and everything else?
So with the energy healing, that took at least into my early 30s when I realized that. But the spirit world, I was connected with the spirit world since my childhood. I know, as I remember I mentioned to you, the first time I even got introduced to quote unquote ghost stories was when I was 9 years old. And it was just like a school trip that we were doing at the library. And we had somebody who was just reading out of a book about the ghosts, which I would actually consider spirits, like somebody who passed away, passed on, but their spirit was still there and was just like walking around in some kind of uh, villa or mansion. And I don't know, I was just listening to the story and I was just like, I couldn't move at all. I was just mesmerized by the story. And I can't remember, maybe it was just a half of the book that was read, but I immediately want to know everything possible about that spirit or any spirit at all. And I just asked my mother to go to library that we had nearby in town, and the librarians there were like looking at her like she wants what. And my mother just was the kind of person, she just encouraged me, like whatever I was interested in, she's like, okay, I don't know what this is about, but I will go with it.
Right.
And that's how I started reading a bunch of books on spirits. And then after I read, I don't know, 20 books maybe, I was like, okay, I'm satisfied now. And then my teenage years, I started watching a show. Like there were shows about mediums, and there were different shows about people connecting with spirits, but not every show for some reason I felt that resonated with me. But one particular show in the 90s, I think it was the end of the 90s, I was watching about this crime detective. And she was, as I mentioned, she was looking at cases where somebody was passed on or crimes that were committed. And it was old cases where people, like families, didn't know what happened and somebody just closed the case because they couldn't find um, the the perpetrator, for lack of better wording. And every time this detective was connecting with these families, later on, the spirit who was waiting for the murder to be found, I could, like, every time when she was looking at that spirit, like this person who was dead already, and I immediately knew what that spirit was telling her. I just knew it. There was no verbal communication like I'm talking now. I just knew this what that spirit was saying. And I remember this clear like it was yesterday. Like I would say, she's saying thank you, or this person or this spirit is saying whatever I heard, whatever I could sense. And my mother just said, how do you know that? And it was not that she was judged. She's just like, how do you know that? It was just, she was like, how? And I didn't know what to tell her. I just knew it. It felt natural to me. And yeah, then that was my only connection. I just would watch other shows similar, but that just was the main time when I realized, oh, I understand what spirits are saying. Interesting. But I never really thought, okay, I should get to the bottom. Why do I know how to do this? I only started maybe in 2017 or 18 when when I was doing some workshops on mediumship without knowing that what I knew was connected to mediumship. I just didn't connect the dots. And then, oh my gosh.
So, like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so you, like, I suppose I'm trying to sort of connect the dots. Like,
Sure.
You know that it's there, but you kind of, yeah, whatever. I've got
Right.
visibility. Like,
Right.
okay, I can see, I can smell, I can hear ghosts, I know
Right.
when they're talking. And then so was there some event that made you go on the mediumship class at 2017?
Um,
Or just feeling?
it was not like somebody specifically encouraged me to try it. I just wanted to know more because I noticed that I'm able to connect the spirits. I wanted to, like, first, after my father's passing in end of the 2000s, like 2007, around that time, and I would say maybe 2 years afterwards, I could suddenly feel his presence, though I knew he was dead. And I realized, wait a minute, what's this about? And I would tell my mother, and she just like, I mean, she didn't question it. She just like, well, obviously you know how to do this. She didn't really think about, what's that
Your
about?
mum
How do you
sounds
do that?
great, by the way. Your mum sounds like,
Yes,
it's like,
now
yeah,
she's
you're
very,
obviously like no problem. You just know how to communicate with the dead instead of,
Right.
oh my God, you know. Oh.
I know.
It sounds very
and
cool.
She's very open. My
Yeah.
mother's side of the family was always very open about a bunch of different things.
Mm.
And later, when my mother was dying, I was able to sense spirits. Like she was in the hospital, and after I did Reiki, then suddenly spirits appeared. I did not really know who was there, but I could feel them.
Right.
And again, I didn't have any quote unquote training, so I wasn't sure what that was about. But I just decided, okay, whatever's happening here, it feels positive. It feels welcoming and loving, and I just observed what was happening. And after that, my late mother, she's now on the other side. And I feel like sometimes when I'm communicating with the other side, she's like a mediator, she's like trying to tell. I know this sounds crazy, but it just feels like she's like trying to help me understand what is happening. And
right. So it was,
yeah.
was it like after your mother passed, and of course, my condolences, but after your mother passed, then you went, okay, she's helping me. Maybe I should go to a medium class as well.
Something like that. Yeah. It's just
Right.
so many. I just started meeting after her passing. It's actually interesting that you mentioned that, because after her passing, I started meeting people who were part of that, who were mediums, who were psychics, who believed in all, who for them it was their life. And I felt immediately at home with them. Like even if any of them said, "Oh, I think somebody's talking to me," and I didn't think, "Are you serious?" I just thought, "Okay, sure, she is." I didn't think. And then later I started getting formal training in energy healing and other modalities. And later on, I started going to a workshop, and there was a mediumship, and I thought, okay, I have to find out more about what is this happening. And I could sense that, like I would have pictures like in front of my eyes, um, like like if I close my eyes, I would have a picture of somebody, and I would be thinking, and it was so strong, and I couldn't understand, why do I feel the strong need of this picture right in front of my eyes? And so I asked, what do I do when I have this picture? And then I was told, say hi, basically. And that's how it started. I learned that people who passed on, they connect with my energy. So in this case, my energy, and they know what ways works to communicate with me, what I understand. And I am very visual. And when I have visions, that's how spirits connect with me. And I also were able to develop my clairaudience, like I'm able to hear them or feel them. Feeling is not as developed, but the hearing and the visions, like I can connect with them, and whoever it is. Like sometimes when I'm doing a mediumship session, someone reaches out and says, can you connect with so and so? And I just say, okay, we'll try it. And next thing I know, I'm connecting with that person.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. And my own experience of spirit is I just, again, it's like I can't see it, but I can see it. And I've very much had these things that are just like directly in front of my eyes, and it's like I close my eyes, I know who it is, I can see them. And generally that something important's happened around that time. Like it's
Yes.
So I mean, I can totally relate to that, but I mean, it's, I think what we're here for in my podcast is to share these stories of how this came about, and some stories of what was confirmation for you that this wasn't just your imagination, but you're connecting through a facet, maybe like part of the imagination we don't normally consider as anything more than imagination, to another level of reality, or we might say dimension.
Right. Yes.
Today. Yeah.
I mean, for that, I can say, like, I generally, when I'm connecting with spirits, even sometimes I go to a cemetery and I connect with them, and I admit sometimes I doubt myself. I'm thinking, why is this happening right now? But the thing is, for me, that whoever's trying to connect with me, when they keep repeating the same thing, like when they keep repeating the same word, or when it gets louder and louder. And I used in my own, I have a mechanism that I use to truth test, like to see, okay, is this me? Am I going crazy, or do I actually hear this? Because I do that.
Right. That was something I really liked, actually, when we first connected. You said, oh, let me truth check that. And I went, oh, I can do that, but I never do it, but I can do that. And I thought, well, you've just taught me something. Certainly, I think you've taught me something. At least sometimes you need to have the same lesson more than once to realize, oh, yeah, okay, that's it. So do you want to tell us about your truth checking? How does that work?
Sure. So I have 2 ways that I learned to truth test. Like I focus on my body and how it reacts. I will start that there are like basic ways to do that. The basic is like, I'm just going to demonstrate right now because that's what I learned.
Sure.
Like, I'm just going to be honest now, and I'm just going to use these 2 fingers. This sounds weird. This looks weird, but who cares?
Weird,
So my name
is the middle name of the show. So
okay.
You're okay. It might look weird, it might sound weird, and that's perfect. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just gonna say the truth. My name is Dusya. Okay, it's very easily. My fingers are moving very easily. Now I'm gonna lie. My name is Cassandra. I'm trying very hard to move my fingers, but I can't.
Okay.
Or I use my body, or I use my body like I could, like whatever happened, like I could. I'm gonna try. Okay, the truth is, for instance, I love chocolate. Now I'm gonna lie. I hate chocolate. Okay, I love chocolate.
Right.
Like something like that. And I do the same thing with the mediumship. Like I truth tested, like, is it really happening? Then I choose it like yes, or when I get mixed messages, like when it's yes, no kind of way, then I try this, okay, who is this talking? Who am I hearing? And then I get an actual message.
Right. Oh, okay. Right. So it seems to me like a lot of it is about you learning to, in fact, so much of life is us learning to ask the right questions, isn't it?
Yes.
So my truth testing is interesting because I just use the balance. So I stand in balance, balance, and I say the truth, and that the truth generally doesn't throw you out of balance. Or that's not true, is it? Sometimes the truth can be such a shock to us; it really does throw us out of balance. But anyway, so I'm listening to my balance, and I bring my mind to the thing that I'm questioning, and if it say, I like chocolate, and then if at least chocolate is really good for me and I really do like it, then I'll stay in balance. But if it comes up that it's not, then my balance will shift. And interestingly, I get a really great feeling going up my center line. So this is if something's good, I get a great feeling, like an inner glow in my center line. So I'm very much, but I'm like, my background was all martial arts, Chinese martial arts and Tai Chi, and then the center line is really, really important. So I use that, but I mean, I know muscle testing,
yes,
different muscle testing, and it's just there's just different ways for different people. But yeah, that's really cool. And so, did you? I'm kind of curious. Did you have any like really insistent spirits come to you that like just won't leave you alone?
It rarely happens. I did have like a spirit approach me. I mean, I'm saying approach me, but that's not the way I should describe it. In my apartment, for instance, I had somebody, I don't know, I was not able to get any confirmation from where I live, but my sense was that the person who lived in my apartment before me passed away. And suddenly I would have like something happen, like there's something moving in my apartment, like a magazine falling on the floor out of the blue.
Right.
Yeah, or I would see from the corner of my eye like some movements. And I have to be honest about this. I've had like seeing movement out of the corner of my eyes for a couple of years, and I kept asking, what is this? What's this going on? And like, why? And nobody could tell me until I started doing mediumship. And I
Mm.
realized, oh, I'm seeing probably spirits. And so one
Mm.
time, um, I decided again, I was too testing again. And so I decided to pretend like I can see the person and I'm just going to say, hi, how are you doing? And this person would then respond to it. And I would say, and I would just ask specific questions like, did you live here before?
Mm.
And I would either hear a respond or see actually the person in front of my eyes like nodding or shaking their head, and I just would keep the conversation and with yes or no questions
Mm.
because they don't really do open-ended questions. They do
Right.
more yes or no questions,
Right.
and so I just learned. And if I would get mixed messages, I was like, okay, I should change the question.
Mm.
And yeah, I found out at some point that the person wanted me to connect with their son, and I tried to explain I can try that, but I have to figure out how to find out where your son lives
Right.
because there's
Right.
another. Yeah, but
Yeah.
somehow I can't remember the just the end of this discussion, but I think but this person calmed down and she hasn't visited me ever since. So I
Yeah, I
said,
mean,
okay, I'll try again.
my Taoist teacher, he would always say, if you want to make, if you want to control energy,
Mm,
um, if you want to, in a way, sort of have mastery of
mm-hmm,
anything,
mm-hmm,
then make friends with it.
mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
don't run away from it. Running away from it
Right.
is a great way to make it like a dog. It's a great way to. It wants to play. Quick, let's run after it.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
I know. Yeah.
so
And
yeah, it is interesting. Yeah, that is interesting. And a lot of
yeah.
people, they don't realize that, you know, in most houses somebody has passed away after all.
Mm-hmm.
We live in
Yeah.
houses, and as a
Mm-hmm.
consequence we also die in houses. So
Yes.
yeah. Mm.
And yeah, and have other stories where I connected with the culture of a person. Like I remember I was, as I mentioned to you a while ago, I was doing a energy healing session on a client. It was in some Eastern Asian country. I don't remember anymore which country she was from. And I and as I mentioned to you, I remember that I was suddenly in a country and there was like a river around there and I've never been there before. And there was suddenly this monk in front of me. Although this monk was not communicating verbally, it was more like telepathically. But I could immediately, like, I remember this so, again, I remember so clear, like, he was bowing in front of me, and I just did that as well. And it was like we were greeting each other. And
Mm.
in my way, I was saying, please share with me what you have, what you want me to know. And it was just a beautiful experience of learning about the culture. And I
Mm.
have no words.
Mm. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. I mean, it's lovely that you're so able to, in a very friendly way and approachable way, connect um, with if you like the other side. But
Mm-hmm.
I suppose um, I, one thing that I'm just curious about: have you ever been
Mm-hmm.
involved in helping with forensic work? So working with some sort of criminal activity, and you've got some information where you felt you needed to help the.
Yes. I don't want to say exactly with forensic, but there were two situations where I was helping out. I um I was doing a mediumship reading for a young woman across the country,
Mm.
and she basically just showed me a picture of her friend, and she told me that this friend passed away or died,
Mm.
and she wanted to know what happened, what actually like there was some police report, there was a natural cause or something like that, and she didn't believe it. And my stance is, okay, this friend said that she doesn't believe it, so I'm just going to connect with the energy of this person who's passed away
Mm.
and just introduce myself and see, okay, hi, what do you have to share? What do you want to share with me? And I found out some pretty heavy stuff. I'm just going to leave it at that. Well, I found out there was a situation where the police was not very, very honest about the death of this young woman, and I just shared this with the woman with a friend, and I
Yeah,
didn't
I
go
mean,
into too
that's
many
so difficult,
details.
isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's so
yeah. I
difficult. You're in a
didn't
silly
want to.
situation almost because,
Yeah,
okay, what now? What do I say?
right.
But as I
And so
seem
I
to be
just.
saying a lot nowadays is,
Mm,
the German word for clairvoyant is
mm,
Wahrsager, or well, actually, it's
it's
Hellseher, which means,
Varsaga. Has
and
a yeah.
Hellseher means to see brightness. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
hell is bright in German.
Yeah.
And Wahrsager is truth sayer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's
it's
correct.
saying you say what is true, and of course,
Mm-hmm.
yes, truth has many levels. I mean, there's a true
Yeah.
truth, and then there's a relative
Right.
truth.
Yeah.
And so, yes, it's difficult sometimes, and I'm curious, like
Mm-hmm.
I could, and forgive me, but I could see
Mm-hmm.
you almost, with your style, almost gypsy-like. So, is
Thank
there
you.
some gypsy in you? Is there
It's
like
possible. It's
you don't know?
possible.
Okay, I mean,
I, the best way I can answer this question is, I mean, you're not the first one to address this, to ask me this if I have gypsy in me. All I can tell you is that I'm fascinated with their culture. I mean, not necessarily what the bad stuff that supposedly they do. Or if there's something, there's stigma around gypsy. I know about that, but I know that my late grandmother, she loved singing gypsy songs. She could sing she could dance like a gypsy, and because of that, I believe that I do have some gypsy in me. However, it's not like this generation, maybe, I don't know, great, 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 great. Like that for.
Yeah. I'm also curious because you mentioned something before about shamanic. And I'm like, well, this is something which it's so old. Anybody can say shamanic. I mean, literally anybody can say, oh, shamanic. Yeah. Because it's something which seems to come to certain people that they're chosen to be the medicine woman, medicine man. And yet there are very much like schools of shamanism where you can connect and you can wake up what I think many people have an innate ability where we can stretch like yoga. You're not necessarily going to be a yoga teacher, but you can stretch and develop a certain capacity. So how is it for you? Is it more something that you say, well, I just seem to agree with a lot of this shamanism, and so I'm going to call myself a shaman, and there's no foul in that? Or is it you've actually gone out and said, oh, I believe this is my tribe, I'm going to connect with this?
I am a trained shamanist. However, I don't consider myself a shaman because from my understanding, shamans are related to natives. They from their ancient traditions of the Native Americans are indigenous, indigenous people.
Indigenous
For
is
me,
better. I think
yes,
indigenous is
yes,
better.
okay.
Yes, indigenous.
Yeah, and shamanism, I was introduced to their healings when I was watching Medicine Woman with, yeah, I forgot her name now, but it was a show in the 90s, and I was fascinated by how she learned from the natives, and I felt it resonated with me. And later, recently, I got trained in shamanism. I also attended a few circles for shamanism, and I learned about different cultures, like the Mayan culture. I know there's different cultures where they use shamanism, and there was something that I did resonate with. However, would never consider myself an actual shaman. For me, it's more like I connect with some of the teachings, and it resonates with me. Like some of the culture resonates with me. I don't know, maybe I had some generations ago, maybe I had somebody who was learning from them, or somebody who in my family was also a shaman. I don't know, but I just connect with different modalities, different traditions, and I just want to learn about shamans. I want to know everything about them, how they view medicine, how they view the world, how they like, and it just fascinated me that they connect with ancestors, and they connect with the tree, like everything, like how everything's interconnected. And that's my viewpoint as well. I think that everything's interconnected. Not Western civilization has separated a lot, but shamanism, they like say this is like Mother Nature, this is the sky, as above as below. Like this all makes sense to me. And I just learned all this because for my own personal growth, and because I just had so many aha experiences. I was like, this makes sense to me. This, like, yeah, why can this not make sense? I just felt at home.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think you can draw a line, an interesting line, you know, if you're doing it academically. And I met a chap called Holger Kalweit, who in Germany, who was kind of studying the commonalities of shamanism and various things. You can see that across all the cultures, they have this idea, well, there's an energy and it connects everything. Yep. It's like, well, that's kind of a given if you're, you know, and that's why I don't also see that people necessarily have to be part of a school, because shamanism is so primal. It comes from connecting with that space, whatever that space is, whether it's energy, spirit, or whatever, and then essentially being the mediator. So mediator, another word for mediator is, of course, a medium. So there's just, and then how that appears, you know, how people bring that through to the world and what it means to them is, yeah, it's going to be different. But I think often, you know, like so many things, a teacher just really helps us to speed up our process and our progress. Ideally, so teachers essentially, they can't add something which isn't there, unless if we said like knowledge or asking, you know, certain questions, and then by asking those questions, they help us to develop and so on.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, it's very nice. So I suppose one of my questions and one of my areas of interest is, what do you think happened right in your development, and what do you think happened wrong in your development as a medium?
What happened wrong in my development as a medium was that I did not get the support as early as was necessary.
Okay.
Like, I know I strongly believe that many kids are gifted in one way or another. And in my childhood, I was mostly supported by my mother and her family, especially when related to mediumship or anything other like that, although it was not like those words were not used, but it was obvious that I was different, quote unquote. My father, he was more like somebody, he was not supportive at all. I remember when I was 10 years old, my father wanted my mother to start getting a job, wanted her to start working. She was a housewife from the time I was born.
Right.
And he insisted that she find a job. And she kept explaining to him that, well, she's been so long away from the workforce that it's going to be a little hard. even if she has the right skills. He didn't want to hear about it. And by the way, he was not a good person, to put it politely. And I remember once my father went with her to some kind of to an employment agency, I think it was, and he basically filed the application for her so that she could start applying for jobs. And interestingly, I remember this again, like it just happened. My mother got a letter from the employment agency. And before my mother could even, I mean, she was in the process of opening the letter.
Right.
And I immediately told them what was in the letter. I did not see that. I promise. I did not know what was in the letter before that. I just, it's like I just blurted out what was in the letter. And my father was like, what? And then he read and like, how? And like, he was surprised. And then my mother was surprised, of course. And later on, another time, my mother got again a similar letter. And again, I did that. I said, I blurted out again what I knew was in the letter. And although my father said, wow, good job, but there was something about the way he said it. I don't know what I saw when I was like observing him, but in that moment, I intuitively thought I had to stop.
Whatever it sounds, I did, you know, I get, interestingly, because as you're telling the story, I feel threatened by your father. Like almost, well, no, I mean, like almost like I can use this, I can
exactly
manipulate things. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. He's not thinking of this in a love and light kind of way.
Right, exactly.
Look, you know, there's many aspects to it, you know, I'm not gonna,
right.
You know, I think very much my podcast is on the positive note, but to say that there isn't a negative note, and to know that once you're connected with the energy, like the people that don't have that connection, they think, oh, I could do this and that with it. Once you're connected with the energy, it doesn't feel quite so simple as, oh yeah, I'm just doing some naughty things.
Right.
Everything you do naughty, you know, you're going to get back. Yeah. You're going to get your smack bottom, as they say. Yeah. So, and somebody from the outside is like, wow, I can, so what does this mean? I can know lottery numbers. I can know who's winning the races. Yeah. It starts getting,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
So sensibly you shut it down. That's interesting. Yeah. You shut yourself down. Like, oh,
exactly. Exactly. And when I was a teenager, I was subconsciously like helping my mother. And I noticed again, like my father would insist that we did something, and I just knew it was not going to work. And my mother was like, and I said, it's not going to work. We're going to get in trouble. And she started understanding that I knew something, and she started supporting me, but she didn't know really how to support me because her entire family, they were gone. They couldn't. And I remember even when I was in my early 20s, she would say, I wish our family was here because they would know how to help you. I wish I would know. I'm your mother, but I don't know how to. I love you. I want to be there for you. And I said, it's okay. I understand that. It's fine. We'll figure this out together. And yeah, later on, I have to say that after her passing is when I guess but my perspective is that when she was on the other side, she was able to help me more and guide me in the right direction. And that's how it started. Like I was able to then say, okay, it's time for me to find out who I am, rediscover myself, because he's not there anymore. My mother's not there, but she's supporting me from the other side. And I knew, okay, I'm safe now. I'm an adult. It's now my turn.
Isn't it? Yeah, it's one of those bitter ironies of life that your mum's, now that she's not there, she's able to support you. And of course, it's bitter that she's not there, you know. Yeah. And so what went right? What went right? What was the
Mm-hmm.
best things that happened to you and supported you?
Learning energy healing was the first step for me. As soon as I started doing meditation, I learned how to do meditation, I learned how to do Reiki, and that's where my life started making sense. I got answers to questions that I've been longing to know for years.
Mm.
And my life was very overwhelming for me in many ways, but when I started learning all these tools, Reiki, meditation, and then also like becoming a Reiki master, and doing all this, and the more I learned even other modalities, the more I started feeling alive, like like I finally know who I am. And then when I started adding my mediumship, like connecting with people on the other side again. And I remember I was at a circle with other mediums, and someone says, "My goodness, you look like you just won the lottery." just, I just feel like this is who I am. It's like I know I believed I was born with it,
Yeah.
but because I did not get support, and I know there are many out there, but I'm glad that I was able to learn this, even if though I'm learning it as an adult, but I'm catching up. And I have to say, I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of the progress I'm making. I'm proud of the people. I'm proud of the opportunity to help people, whether it's with energy healing and
Right.
or mediumship. I just feel like for me, it's like having a meal or breathing
Dusya, you know,
oxygen.
you are such a sweet person. You know, you're so modest. You're very talented. You're very good. You know, better than some people who are out there on Instagram claiming, yeah. And I'm not mentioning any names. But I'm just saying, like, you're very good already. I'm convinced that you're able to help a lot of people, and you know, I really hope that people can connect with you through this podcast. So, do you do distance work with people?
Absolutely. I work with people all around the world.
Right. Yeah. So you
Yes.
can do distance work with people, and we'll include the links to your website or whatever,
Yeah,
Instagram or whatever. You know,
sure.
it's it'd be absolutely my pleasure. And somebody will be listening to this and going, "Oh, I think I need to talk to Dusya, Dusya L."
Yeah.
And they'll get in touch with you. But I'm very, very grateful that you've spent the time with me, with us, sharing your stories, because I think your stories are deeply personal and so modest. Really, you're so humble, and you're obviously a great talent.
Thank you. I appreciate that as well.